Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to use our social media platform to create discussions and to create space on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan, support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday. And we actually have a thought piece that we just dropped this past Sunday, so be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you're looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available on 12 different podcast platforms for your listening leisure, and we've provided you with access to the links in the description down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today our topic of discussion is mental health. And on the conversation of mental health, we're going to keep it a little bit light, but still serious of a topic. But I'm going to try to address it with some comedic relief. We're going to be talking about how understanding and building boundaries for ourselves by way of determining what things that we're attracted to should subsequently lead to interest. And so I want to have this conversation as we talk about mental health, because I think sometimes what really impacts or impedes on our ability to stay mentally healthy is some of the negative perpetuating cycles that we find ourselves in because of what it is we find ourselves to be attracted to. And I am someone who believes that attraction is very much nature over the nature and nurture debate. I've never really felt that I had any real control or say as to the things that I'm attracted to or the things that I'm drawn towards. They're just kind of part of how I was built, right? And I think even like who I was as a child, like some of the things I was attracted to then, I'm still definitely attracted to now. But with time and experience and with some of those life lessons, I have learned that not everything that I'm attracted to warrants or deserves my interest. And I think that that wisdom by way of demarcating between what is preliminarily attractive and then what should capture your attention over a long period of time are the lessons that we learn with time, hopefully, or the lessons that we should start to integrate in the way that we navigate in the world around us if we find that the things that we're attracted to end up hurting us in some way, shape, or form. So I'm going to start this argument or this conversation under the premise that attraction is more nature, it's more built in, even if built in means the formative experiences that we've had in our years that have really played into the programming of the things that we're attracted to. But attraction doesn't always mean people, right? Like the things that we're attracted to could be colors that we're drawn to or events that we want to go to, our preferences in certain things. All of these things really play into our profile of like what things interest me prima facie. So without further investigation, like without scratching the surface, like if I hear about something more or less along those lines, then I know that I'm interested. It's piqued my interest. But is it gonna keep my interest? And I think that's really what the crux of the conversation is today. And I'm gonna talk about the areas that I have learned, even if it attracts my eye, it's not going to keep my attention. And all of the areas in life that I have leveraged in order to break free from certain negative cycles that I was potentially born into. And also to support myself in cultivating really healthy cycles so that the things that I'm drawn to don't end up being the things that can hurt me or the things that end up being like self-sabotaging, behaviors. So the way I like to see it is attraction is an inclination. It's something that kind of happens without us thinking, whereas interest is a choice. So I can choose with something that attracts my eye or with someone who attracts my attention, if whether or not I'm interested. And I have to tell you that now in my life, 9 times out of 10, most of the things that attract me, I'm not interested in. And it's funny because if you talked to me 10 years ago, like everything that attracted me, I was interested in. It creates a lot of fear of missing out. It creates a lot of analysis paralysis because you just don't quite know what to choose. Whereas now I find I'm on the flip side, whereas I find that I'm a lot more careful with the things that I'm attracted to because I recognize some of the experiences that I've had with those kinds of attractions. So I do a lot more filtering out and filtering through because I recognize some of the flaws in the things that I personally find myself to be attracted to. So I try to self-correct those given flaws by practicing some of the tenets that I'm going to be sharing with you right now. So one of the areas that I have really incorporated a filtering mechanism between, like, even if I'm attracted to it, it's my preference or I'm drawn to it, I will really do a lot of checks and balances before I decide that I'm interested in it. And that's like social setting. So as I mentioned before, like I'm a social butterfly. I love socializing. I love meeting people. I love connecting with people. And I was always in these settings. So if you knew me from high school into university, into even the first 10 years of my career, like if there was a party, I was there. Like I really love to be part of the buzz. And I think now what I've learned is though I'm attracted to social gatherings and social events and building connections, I am much more selective in what interests me, right? So I'm not just going to go because I get the invite or because it's there. I'm going to go if I feel like it serves me in some way, shape, or form. If it serves me to be around those kinds of people, or if those are the kind of individuals that I want to build relationships with, or if I want to invest my time in cultivating, an emotional bond with those individuals. And I find like if I don't see any long-term value in socializing with a given group, then I'm actually not interested in going anymore. And before it was just like for the sake of having a moment, having memories, like, some of the work hard, play hard mentality where, your bonds are kind of built in the trenches or through this party culture really can create a false sense of community, I've realized. And so now, like, if it is the case that I feel inclined to party or to spend time with people of my own accord, then I'm just super, super selective in how that translates. And my interest builds on the foundation as to like, if whether or not these are the kinds of people I want to build like long-term emotional connections with, or the kinds of people where like, if I am partying and I'm like, letting loose a little bit, do I feel safe? Do I feel like they'll take care of me? Like, or am I out on my own? So I think that though I'm attracted to social settings, to social gatherings, to social events, I am much more selective in actually what interests me and what will actually like take my attention and my energy on a long-term basis. So the attraction is still there, but now moving forward, I've learned with time and experience, I'm selective in what I give my time and my attention to by way of social settings and events. Now, when it comes to like relationships, I think this one's really important because a lot of us learn the hard way. Like I'm a visual person, so I can be attracted visually to someone, but that doesn't mean it's going to keep my interest. And it used to be that if I was attracted visually, I was automatically interested. Whereas now, no, I think the visual component is maybe what will get my attention, but it's not what's going to keep my attention. And I've learned that for me to really see there being a benefit in having that attraction translate into interest, there are a few things that I need to learn that are not things that I'm going to understand or gain periphery on just by the visual, right? So I know that for me to have interest, there needs to be like strong moral character. Like morality is important, integrity is important, but like a strong character. Like I like strong personalities who aren't easily intimidated, aren't easily deterred by what they're looking for. And I also need someone to be really intelligent. And it doesn't necessarily need to be an intelligence that's aligned with my intelligence, but it needs to be like intelligent in some way, shape, or form. There needs to be a part of me that acknowledges or that feels or perceives intelligence for me to like cultivate interest. And I just learned this with time and experience experience that attraction really can fade, right? But I think attraction fades mostly when some of the characteristics that you're looking for and that can really create a long-term commitment aren't there, right? Like looking at someone is not going to be enough for intellectual stimulation. And I think that intellectual stimulation not for everyone is the same thing, but for me, it's everything, right? I need to be intellectually stimulated more than I need to like have someone in front of me that captures my eye, but it doesn't mean that like I can develop interest with someone that wouldn't otherwise like catch my eye. So it's a little bit complicated, but then not really. So I think attraction is definitely a great place to start, but it's not where it ends, right? Like I think that I've learned that to be superficial is to really set yourself up for unnecessary drama, for unnecessary experiences. I think long-term relationships are less about what you look like and less about like what you bring in a visual or like from a physical standpoint, and much more about like what you bring by way of your character, by way of your values, by way of the choices that are like aligning to your short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. I think those play a way more significant role into whether or not that attraction could actually translate into a long-term, really healthy relationship. And lastly, like when we think about attraction, like even like to the foods that I want to eat or the maybe things that I would like to buy, like there's a lot of things that capture my eye. Like again, I'm very visual, I like color, but given the fact that I have like a lot of dietary restrictions, I have a lot of food intolerances, like even though I'm into eating chocolate, am I gonna eat every chocolate? No, it has to be, you know, of a dairy-free, gluten-free variety for me to enjoy it without suffering the ramifications of it. And I think that's really, like all of those areas really play into the demarcation that we start to experience in a more intentional way between whether or not the things that we're attracted to, the things that we're drawn to should translate into the things that we're interested in putting our energy into. Whether that's like the things that we decide to eat and to consume, the events that we decide that we're going to be open to experience, or the people that we decide to enter into a relationship with, whether that's a platonic relationship or whether that's a romantic relationship. I think attraction just gets you through the door, but it shouldn't be what seals the deal. And so I think that having those boundaries in place, having those boundaries set has really enabled me to pull out of some of the negative cycles that I was in as I was navigating attraction and choice, right? Because I thought that if I was attracted, that was the choice. But I've learned through time that no, like even if you're drawn to something, like you could be drawn to something that looks a lot like, you know, a nice tall glass of water, but you know, it's not water. It could be something else that could be quite toxic for you. So you just learn to be much more mindful, much more intentional, understand what it is that you need, what needs you're hoping to satisfy in cultivating a relationship, or, you know, what are your physical needs? Like you could want this food, but is it like actually hindering you and like keeping yourself physically healthy? And if it is hindering you, like should you consume it even though it looks tantalizing? And like events and experiences. There's a lot of experiences that seem really cool, like prima facie out of the gate. But then if you look at the small print, it can be a really, you know, not so fun experience. So I think it's really important that we all start to think very critically about where we draw the line in the sand between what attracts us, like what will get our attention, but differentiate between what gets our attention and what keeps our attention. And I think that interest, like making the choice to really invest my energy into something, is going to be something that plays into much more than what attracts me, because as a visual person, like I walk down the street and I find myself captivated by so many different things, but I can choose to not be interested in any of the things that catch my eye. And I think that that level of self-mastery has really helped me to stay grounded and helped me to stay centered, has really been a strong support to my mental health, because I know how to no-go the kinds of events that may be attracting and alluring out of the gate, but I know fundamentally are not for me. So I wanted to come on here and impart that wisdom with you. Hopefully it's helpful to you. It gives you some support and some periphery if you're looking to get a little bit of self-guidance and how you start to change the narratives or some of the stories that have been playing out in your lives. I think a lot of it has to do with our inability to differentiate between things that attract us or the things that draw our attention and the things that should interest us and that do interest us. So that was it, but definitely not all. Now, before letting you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our Facebook page. So definitely be sure to tune in. Now, these events are paid events, so if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, then I do suggest that you take a look at one of our package plans. Yes, so we do offer package plans over and above our live events, as well as access to webinars and workshops, largely focused on self-mastery over and above these events. So we invite you to tune in. We invite you to join our Game Changer community, being part of the change that you want to see, allowing us a small role to play in your journey. So we are on the road to 1K. We invite you to follow us across all of our platforms, and we look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. We'll talk to you later.